We have heard some amazingly powerful statements from network members and allies today that we are intending to bring to the room tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, and every day of the year on the road to the UAE this year. We've heard a lot of things from our community, and I want to say how grateful I am to those who, this is a room where I say every single one of you should be the keynote speaker. You're an incredibly rich, complementary expertise. We've asked a few people who are going to be taking very strong leadership roles in the UN Water Conference to share with us some closing reflections on how they heard our messages today, what they want to take forward, how they see these major strategic issues we've been discussing today about inclusion, how they see that influencing forward. I also want to say that ambition is really high, and there are a lot of different forces affecting the political will to reach those ambitions. But we as a community must stay strong, and you'll see our Stronger Together coalition. We are stronger together. We are more powerful as a group. And that means we hear each other, we get to know each other, we break bread together, and we learn for each other. When my neighbors' children don't have water, that affects me. I don't want to see that. I want our communities. So when I know my sister, when I know someone across the border, I turn to them as a friend to understand the situation. And now we'd like to hear from a few really amazing people that have joined much of our discussions today and who will be playing key roles going forward. I'm going to come to you all because I want you to, or Aline will come with the mic. Yes, to the table where we'll find you, because I want you to speak from the people. Yeah. And in addition to what you heard and what you want to take forward, I also want you to tell us what we can do for you, how we can support your mission, because it's a shared mission. So with that, I'd like to, Aline, if you could, I see Special Rapporteur Pedro, oh, he moved back. Okay, is here. No, I'm going to ask you to bring the mic to him. Please, Special Rapporteur, your presence today has meant a world to the people in this room, and we greatly appreciate it. And we know you have a strong social message carrying forward in these days. Please share with us some reflections.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much. Since we are in Senegal, a Francophone country, please allow me to address you in French. I hope the artificial intelligence is ready for translating to English. Bon, regardez, il y a 3 ans, l'un de mes 2 rapports thématiques que je présente chaque année à l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies à New York et à la plénière du Conseil des droits humains à Genève portait sur l'eau comme argument en faveur de la paix et de la coopération entre les peuples, notamment dans les bassins transfrontaliers. Et n'oublions pas que 153 pays partagent des bassins fluviaux et des aquifères. Et n'oublions pas que les aquifères gèrent 30 fois plus d'eau douce que les écosystèmes d'eau de surface que nous voyons. Dans ce rapport, j'insistais sur le fait que les fleuves ont traditionnellement uni les communautés riveraines, transcendant les différences culturelles, de langue, religion, ethnique. Et cependant, l'eau étant de plus en plus considérée avant tout comme une ressource productive, une simple ressource économique, elle devient un enjeu de compétition et de conflit. sous couvert de souveraineté nationale sur les eaux traversant chaque pays. Toutefois, il devient de plus en plus évident que nous devons passer d'une gestion de l'eau comme simple ressource à une approche écosystémique si nous voulons promouvoir une gestion durable des rivières, des fleuves, des aquifères. Et si nous voulons notamment prévenir les risques liés au changement climatique, soit de sécheresse ou d'inondation. Il est important de rappeler que, tout comme les ouragans et les tempêtes ne connaissent pas de souveraineté nationale, les rivières, les fleuves ignorent les frontières lorsqu'il s'agit de risques de sécheresse ou d'inondation. Partager cette responsabilité ne dégrade pas le principe de souveraineté nationale. Au contraire, cela signifie de développer intelligemment et en fonction des défis actuels auxquels nous sommes confrontés au XXIe siècle. Par exemple, l'Espagne et le Portugal ne diminuent pas leur souveraineté nationale en partageant les responsabilités liées à la gestion durable des fleuves ibériques communs. Ou de même, la France, l'Allemagne, les Pays-Bas ne perdent pas de souveraineté en partageant les responsabilités similaires dans la gestion du Rhin, dans le cadre de l'Union européenne. D'autre part, si la garantie du droit humain à l'eau, ainsi que d'autres droits liés à l'eau, relève de la responsabilité de chaque gouvernement, dans le cas d'un bassin transfrontalier, cette responsabilité inévitablement est partagée avec les pays voisins. Passer d'une conception et d'une gestion de l'eau comme simple ressource à une approche écosystémique sur les bassins transfrontaliers permet de jeter les bases d'une transition de la compétition et des conflits à une responsabilité de gestion partagée et de coopération. Une responsabilité partagée pour garantir la durabilité des rivières et des aquifères pour le bien de tout le monde, d'un côté ou de l'autre des frontières. Développer cette responsabilité partagée dans une perspective de droit humain doit également promouvoir une gestion équitable et participative. Par conséquent, dans mon rapport, j'insiste, et j'insiste toujours, ce n'est pas tellement bien connu, sur l'importance pour tous les pays partageant des bassins fluviaux et des aquifères de signer et de mettre en œuvre la Convention des Nations Unies sur l'eau, la Water Convention. Cette convention repose sur le principe de durabilité et des approches de gestion fondées sur les droits humains. La mise en œuvre de cette convention et de ces principes exige non seulement de mener des négociations et de créer des institutions transfrontalières, mais aussi de promouvoir des processus participatifs ouverts aux populations des deux côtés des frontières, sans discrimination, y compris particulièrement les peuples autochtones et les communautés traditionnelles, en valorisant, comme vous avez dit avant, et en respectant leurs connaissances, leur approche communautaire de gestion, si démocratique, et leurs droits sur leur territoire. Et d'autre part, en accordant une attention particulière à l'égalité de participation des femmes. Bien sûr. Parce qu'en effet, ce sont les femmes qui supportent la plus grande part du travail et le plus grand risque pour garantir l'accès à l'eau à leur famille et à leur communauté. Par conséquent, les femmes sont mieux placées pour comprendre les problèmes sous une approche basée sur les droits humains. Pas pour les business, pour les droits humains, c'est elles qui sont là en premier rang pour savoir comment les résoudre et comment protéger les sources d'eau dont dépendent leurs communautés. Par ailleurs, il est significatif que dans de nombreux peuples autochtones et dans de nombreuses communautés traditionnelles, les femmes jouent le rôle de protectrices et de défenseuses des sources d'eau et sont chargées de transmettre les savoirs et les pratiques traditionnelles concernant la gestion de l'eau. En plus, conscient de la nécessité de prévenir les conflits liés à la gestion de l'eau, n'oublions pas ça, dans les bassins transfrontaliers, il ne faut pas oublier, et je vous demande de souligner ça, Il ne faut pas oublier la résolution 1325 du Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies sur la participation des femmes à la résolution des conflits internationaux. Mon rapport aborde également à la fin les aspects les plus sombres, malheureusement, de l'utilisation de l'eau comme arme de guerre contre les populations, en violation du droit international, en Soudan, en Syrie, en Ukraine et surtout en Palestine. Nous en avons des exemples brutaux. L'article 7 du statut de Rome définit la privation de médicaments et de nourriture à une population comme un crime d'extermination. Et j'insiste toujours, je souligne, n'oublions pas que l'eau est essentielle dans notre alimentation et survie quotidienne. Impossible d'ignorer ça. La communauté internationale ne peut tolérer des situations comme celles auxquelles nous assistons à Gaza, où l'eau est utilisée comme élément d'une stratégie de guerre qui s'est transformée en stratégie de génocide, comme l'a souligné la Commission indépendante des Nations Unies. Ne l'oublions pas. Couper l'accès à l'eau, à la nourriture et aux médicaments est une bombe silencieuse, chers amis. Silencieuse, mais mortelle. Surtout avec les femmes, les enfants et les bébés comme principales victimes. Chers amis, je tiens à vous rappeler que nous sommes au début de l'année de l'eau en Afrique. Je dois avouer, non sans une certaine gêne, certaine honte, qu'au moment de rédiger mon rapport, je pensais que les exemples les plus aboutis d'accords transfrontaliers se trouveraient en Europe, et particulièrement au sein de l'Union européenne. Or, force est de constater que l'Europe n'est pas à la pointe. Cet honneur revient à l'Afrique, avec des accords transfrontaliers dans le bassin du Sénégal, du Niger, du lac Tchad, de l'Okavango et bien d'autres, avec des approches qui incluent la participation transfrontalière des communautés et la priorité des droits humains et des besoins fondamentaux des populations d'une partie et de l'autre des frontières, avec des institutions de médiation pour prévenir et gérer les problèmes potentiels. Certes, aussi, il faut le dire, les engagements pris sur le papier ne sont pas, dans beaucoup de cas, sur la réalité devant de nombreux problèmes et défis. Mais je suis convaincu que les femmes doivent jouer et joueront un rôle essentiel pour les relever. Et j'en suis convaincu, non pas parce que je crois que les femmes soient meilleures que les hommes. C'est pas ça. Mais parce que les femmes sont les plus dévouées, les plus engagées aux soins, et en particulier aux soins qui dépendent de l'eau, véritable âme bleue de la vie. Je vais conclure en expliquant ce que je dis au gouvernement à l'Assemblée générale. J'espère qu'il ne se fâche pas trop avec moi, en réponse à l'argument de l'insuffisance de ressources pour garantir les droits humains à l'eau potable et à l'assainissement. Je leur dis, Excellence, je vous exhorte à faire de la garantie du droit humain à l'eau potable une priorité dans les politiques et les budgets publics. Même un manque de ressources ne saurait pas une justification pour négliger cette priorité. Je vous demande, Excellence, de réfléchir à ce que est prioritaire pour les familles et les communautés les plus démunies, les plus appauvris du monde. C'est sans doute l'eau, sans doute. Et ce sont les femmes qui relèvent le défi de satisfaire ce besoin. Et je finis en leur disant, Excellence, je vous exhorte à suivre l'exemple de ces femmes. Merci bien.
Thank you very much, sir. That was very moving. Professor Kaveh Mandadi, I turn to you next.
Thank you.
We had a chance to share the room together in the United Nations in New York a few days ago when the UNU report on water bankruptcy was released. And it really stayed with me, Professor Mandani. I left the United Nations thinking, wow, multilateralism, there's like something, we have a real problem. There's a declining sense that that is our way forward. And I wondered if you could share with us a bit about this gap between this huge ambition, so much knowledge on water and gender equality. We discussed it in the launch session as well. And yet the political will, we need it to advance. And I'd love it if you could share with us some reflection on this and how you will take this message from the room today forward, and how we as well can support your work.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us during the launch and being a voice for not only this valuable network, but the rest of those who are active in this space and know the value of it and the necessity of gender inclusivity. It's two things. It's very hard to answer your question, but also very hard to take the floor after your talk, Pedro. I think it's good to talk about what we heard today and the diversity of beliefs, but that the point diversity that we want to embrace might also be a response to why we cannot move forward, because we are very diverse in our societies, in the stages of development, in our problems. And it's very hard to come up with narratives that are inclusive and move everyone. And I think that's something to be mindful of. Yes, there is knowledge, but there is also a big shortage of knowledge. Yes, there is data, but there is no way that what we have is sufficient and inclusive. And I think that's something that's very important. We heard about the importance of working with the indigenous community, working with different groups, capturing their knowledge and bringing things together. We also heard about the value of science, but it doesn't that in those, I would say, engagements we have it all. I think it's one thing that at least we're trying with the academic hub is to ensure that also scientists learn from these processes, because scientists also often come to the table, return disappointed, thinking that we can, the world stops at the UN Water Conference 2026. And that's not the case, or at, in different COPs. So I think this is the issue. If we want to create that mission and ensure that there is action, we also have to be mindful of what's happening around the world, why we have all these changes and shifts in politics, why we live in a fragmented world. We can't sit there and get disappointed, but we can also have reflections on what is happening and what we need to change if we want to pursue a meaningful path and an impactful path. I think based on what we heard today, to strengthen knowledge and data and institutions. Yes, failures of institutions to endorse data and use knowledge, but let's not think or be delusional. I think is very clear that there is a diversity of problems around the world. The problems of water are not the problems of the global south anymore. They're everywhere, but they're very diverse. And the solution to one location might actually be a cause of problem to another location. And if it's very hard in that environment to come up with something. Although I think the report that is very sobering also concludes that water is one of the at the moment might have the potential to agree on, because it speaks the language of left and right, conservatives and liberals, Republicans and Democrats, and also South and North, to integrate diverse knowledge systems, as we heard today. And we also need action. And in all of these, we have examples, successful examples that you all talked about. And of course, we have challenges at every level, at the local level and the indigenous level, but also at transboundary levels. Those are real. Those are at our session, we had intervention from a country, and 2 days after we received all these messages from another country that thought the narrative delivered by one country was against the interest of another country, while both are concerned about water. These concerns are real, and the academic scientific language, advocacy language is helpful, but would not address those concerns. And I think we need to change that. But as we heard, we cannot manage what we cannot measure. We cannot manage what we don't quantify. We can transparency to the systems that are not transparent to begin with if the data is not there. And for all of those, we need to bring all these pieces together. And of course, governance requires inclusivity of gender, inclusivity of voices, inclusivity of different power groups and different stakeholders. And I think that's something that you are showing by action. And that's something that makes us proud of being a member and also being a supporter of this network, because it's not theoretical talk. You're there where you need to be, and you're delivering, you're contributing to processes by showing examples, by coming up with solutions, by not being disappointed and just blaming the system, but being part of the process and trying hard. And I think that's something that we need to do together. And this session and all the things we heard today assures me that we are powerful. We just have to also play games differently and be ready for doing things differently in a world that we live in today.
Thank you very much, Professor Madani. I'd like to turn now to our partners at the Swiss Development Cooperation, who have been here with us all day. And Janine Kruger is speaking on behalf of the Swiss delegation, who we've been partnering with in many regions and are looking to grow our partnership with. There's the Swiss have been leading the Blue Peace Central Asia program, which we're cooperating with, and Blue Peace Middle East, which I hope will be out in force at the UAE conference, and many others. Please, would you share some of your reflections on the day together?
Yes, thank you very much. And it has indeed been a pleasure to participate in today's meeting. Actually, for me, it was the first time I had the opportunity to interact with Women in Water Diplomacy Network, and it has been truly an inspiring experience. As you said, I mean, Switzerland, we have been involved in water cooperation for a long time. First of all, because we are in the middle of Europe, we are a little bit the water tower of Europe, often called, and we have been used to collaborate and cooperate with our neighboring countries on transboundary water issues. We have been engaged for quite some time now also on facilitating exchange and cooperation among countries in other parts of the world. You mentioned the Blue Peace Middle East, where we are active, Central Asia, and also here in Western Africa. And we have done that always in collaboration with some key partners like the UNEC Water Convention or our different Blue Peace initiatives at different levels. So we really believe water diplomacy, we know it, that it takes a long time. It means long-term commitment, sustained commitment. And I think despite the fact that there is a global recognition of the critical role that women play in the management of water resources, as well as peace building and also conflict management, as we have also heard today a lot, women's role in water diplomacy is still underestimated, and women are too often underrepresented in political decision-making. I think during today's deliberation, I've heard a number of barriers that hinder women from being part of water governance and diplomacy, such as the lack of financial resources, the lack of capacities, the lack of access to data. But I think we should join forces to overcome these obstacles, because it has become also very clear today that involving women in decision-making at all levels, it's a matter of governance, of efficiency, and of effectiveness, and not a nice to have. So the inclusion of women in water diplomacy is indeed, we believe, an opportunity to bring distinctive knowledge, perspective, and experiences to the table, and to get a more comprehensive understanding of relevant water issues and challenges, and to develop more equitable solutions. So the upcoming 2026 UN Water Conference presents, in our understanding, a critical opportunity to amplify women's voices and roles as agents of change, to accelerate the SDG 6, as well as to strengthen water and peace agenda. In order to achieve this, I think we need to ensure that women's voices and perspectives are taken into account in all interactive dialogues. From Switzerland's side, we are convinced that the value that women of different heritage and backgrounds bring to water dialogue is critical in order to contribute to a transformative conference. We therefore think must all invest in inclusive consultations, an inclusive consultation process, and also an effective participation before and during the conference itself. As co-chair of the IDA, Water for People interactive dialogue, Switzerland will make sure that barriers of women, girls, indigenous people to wash services will be addressed and solutions also identified that meet the diverse needs. If I would like to give an example of hygiene, particularly menstrual health, remains critically underrepresented in global WASH discourse and programming as of now. This neglect perpetuates gender-based disparities and limits also the ability of girls to participate fully in education, work, and community life. We are convinced that empowering communities and women to lead planning, oversight, and decision-making fosters ownership and drives more equitable outcomes. It is important that we work or have inclusive designs and participatory governance to leave no one behind. In particular, also indigenous communities must be recognized as partners, and their traditional knowledge and rights must be respected in WASH planning and also in governments. And last but not least, I think youth and women are at the forefront of accelerating this progress. Beyond the conference and our engagement in WASH, Switzerland will also continue to support water diplomacy in general and Women and Youth Championship in particular, as part of our engagement in the field of water, peace, and security. We stand ready also to foster the synergies between the Women in Water Diplomacy Network and our peace initiatives, both globally and also through the ones in the different regions I have mentioned before. So I would really thank you all and the organizers in particular for bringing us together today, for organizing this very stimulating and fruitful exchange. From Switzerland's side, we were happy that we were able to facilitate the participation of the delegation of water diplomats to this symposium, and we will continue to do so also for the Women in Water Diplomacy Network Global Forum that is planned ahead of the UN 2026 conference in the UAE. But most of all, we are very pleased to be part of the network. We are committed to continue to support the work of the network so that it can further grow and also effectively contribute to inclusive dialogue and actions on water, peace, and security. So let's keep the good work going and make sure that women's voices are heard in water cooperation and governance.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you very much. And I'd like to turn to you, Dr. Miriam Haritz, next. And Dr. Haritz is the German water director at the Federal Ministry of Environment and a longtime woman water diplomat in many hats. I'd also like to share with everyone that Germany is committed to supporting a series of webinars we'll be hosting this year that will build on that effective engagement by bringing us together online to help us prepare a lot of different priority messages that we'll be bringing to our next milestone events in the UAE. I want to say thank you for this support and welcome your reflections. I've seen you over there diligently taking notes and quoting people. Please share with us some of your thoughts from the day.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction and the word of thanks, which I would also like to extend to the entire Women in Water Diplomacy Network and all the people present here today and all the partners who made this event today possible. So thank you very much for sharing your ideas and insights today. And I really have this feeling of a joint spirit. We heard in the introductory speeches, we need to be frank and bold. Now, what does that mean? To be frank, in my perspective, means we need to acknowledge deficiencies openly. And to be bold means we need to have the courage to believe in change and fight against obstacles by building bridges. So this should be the impassionate plea, a task, a mission for all of us. So various statements today highlighted the indispensable role women play in sustainable water management and in advancing inclusive water governance. And as we've heard before, while women, children, and vulnerable groups worldwide remain the most affected by injustice in water access, sanitation, and hygiene, they are the hidden managers of water, which is also a quotation, who can be leading agents of change in developing the solutions that we urgently need. So there is a problem-solution potential. So they have to be leading agents of change. These hidden managers need to come onto the stage. And that brings me to the issue of governance, and I'm very happy that Germany gets to co-chair Interactive Dialogue 5. But advancing gender equality in water governance also requires the active engagement of men as allies and change agents, working alongside women to challenge structural barriers and promote inclusive leadership. We heard that we need the backing of politics. Well, most politicians are men, so we need you on board. We need to strengthen women's agency in water diplomacy from all angles by fostering inclusive processes and elevating women's voices in water governance. For the UN Water Conference 2026, it is a key that we need to advance gender equality. With the 2026 World Water Day topic, Water and Women, and the UN 2026 Water Conference kickoff here in Dakar, Senegal, there's a great potential to elevate the topic. And with the first ever UN Water Conference dedicated to all aspects of SDG 6, we expect ambitious and tangible outcomes, including on gender equality throughout different policy fields. Today, we touched upon ways in which individuals, groups of women, and women's organizations could be involved in the UN Water Conference process. But inclusivity is a two-way street with mutual benefits and with unique, convincing selling points. We are indeed living through a crisis of multilateralism. And when it comes to water, some say indeed that we have surpassed the moment of crisis and we are witnessing water bankruptcy. Twice the hurdles, but also twice the chances, out of necessity and with convincing arguments. I'd like to point out at the EU Water Resilience Strategy, they have their central claim to see water differently. Let's take this as a leitmotif for new ways in international water processes. And in this spirit, let's make water more visible in data, in perception, across policy sectors, and in joint commitments. I encourage you to continue your engagement in the interactive dialogue processes throughout the coming 10 months. There will be many opportunities to make your voices, our voices, heard. As I said before, Germany is honored to be co-chairing Interactive Dialogue 5 together with Mexico. Having you all on board is a priority, and we really hope for your active engagement to enrich the necessary discussion. Make use of all existing channels, in person, online. For example, the dedicated multi-stakeholder day tomorrow, and also through UNDESA, the UN Special Envoy on Water, and the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights to Water and Sanitation. Pedro, thank you very much for your intervention. But again, be bold. Don't just wait for others to act for you. Look out for new partners and new alliances. The water world is ready for more women power. In this line, Germany supports the Stronger Together coalition of women's networks and partners, of which Women in Water Diplomacy is also a member. connecting women from different water-related fields. Sisters are doing it for themselves was a famous song back in the, I guess, 80s. But not only for themselves, but for the benefit of all. Stronger Together is not just a name, not just a slogan, but a statement we should all live by. We can indeed be stronger together. On days like today, when we expand and strengthen our network of water women and create the foundation for a successful year 2026, united by water, united for water. So I'm really happy to continue working with you together throughout the coming 10 months until the UN Water Conference in UAE in December. And a big thanks once again to Women in Water Diplomacy, the entire network. I think this is a perfect start and a perfect forum for women and men. Thank you very much.
You know, I don't tell people as much as I should, but about 15% of our network members are men. Or the same rules apply to everyone in our community. Network members are recurrently and repeatedly engaged in our process, and we've seen some amazing men take up this role. None the least, Pedro from our Global Leadership Council up here in the front. I'm going to turn to our UAE co-host for some final reflections. Now, Shaima, we know you weren't with us all day, and we totally understand this. You are a very busy woman today. It is. So we don't expect you to be able to reflect on everything that you weren't here for. But what we would like to hear from you is how you and Senegal are planning on accelerating gender equality within the modalities of the UN Water Conference. So thank you very much for being with us, and we're looking forward to these days ahead. Please, madam.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, good afternoon. And first, apologies. We tried to make it in the morning.
It's the hallway I saw.
We did up to the hallway and then had to rush to the convention center. So really, after hearing such wonderful remarks from everyone, and also kind of our upcoming co-chairs and main partners, there isn't much to say. But I'm really here to show not only commitment, but really truthfully believe in this. UAE and Senegal, I think we've been working quite closely, and it's been a perfect match, I would say. I don't think we've been able to identify a lot of common values when we talk about water. Since day one, we've been really emphasizing the importance of inclusivity, integration, building credibility, but really building a roadmap for all kind of 360 stakeholders in this process. We know that we're not hosting a conference for the sake of hosting a conference. And what Tajikistan and Netherlands did in 2023 really did a phenomenal job in really just elevating the importance of water globally. Now, if we are to move forward towards having a global movement and action on water, there needs to be a clear vision, there needs to be a path, and everyone needs to know, how to get on board this train. But really, this is not our conference, this is everyone's conference. We are here as hosts, and we do know that with what's happening geopolitically and kind of implications on the international organizations and the UN, that stakeholders have a much larger role today than it was before. And so working closely with UNDESA, opening up kind of registration and accreditation is also a contribution from us to say that it's not just limited to the UN Water Conference in the UAE, but really goes beyond. We don't only want to talk about water, we definitely want to show impact, actionable outcomes. It could be this one major thing that is really going to have this ripple effect in kind of the impact on people. In the end, we do know that a lot of certain communities are more vulnerable than others, whether it's man-made or not. But we are here to find solutions. We don't want to be the hosts that are talking about the scary part of water scarcity. or communities not getting the access to clean water or hygiene. But we really want to showcase the uplifting, optimistic opportunity that comes together by having a water conference, having a UN water conference, which represents all member states and stakeholders as part of this critical process. Yes, I didn't hear, everyone's conversation this morning, but we. Personally, I have been working on the women's file for over a decade. And I do know the importance of what women can do when they're brought at the decision table. Women, peace and security, climate, peace and security, water, peace and security, or water and women are very key fundamental elements towards achieving goals. And so we, first of all, really thank the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. We thank Senegal for hosting the preparatory meeting. And we thank you all really for being a part of this discussion. We are very much excited to see how this enriching conversation can really complement the concept notes of the interactive dialogues. The drivers to this will have to be working together. And we always say in Arabic is, one hand can't clap, you need two hands to clap. And so it really is a collective effort. We are in Africa, and so we have to mention that the African continent has actually done tremendously well trying to advance water governance, access to clean water, but there still needs to do more. We need to do more. And the most critical communities in Africa are women. And so we need to ensure that the process or the mechanism to empowering women in the developing world is extremely important. When we talk about gender equality as drivers of peace and resilience, yes, that is extremely important. And I think someone had mentioned that it's not only nice to have women, and we do play a critical role in this process. And so the stability, the community resilience, and the effective water governance is definitely key. Women, give a woman a small amount of resource and look how much, can come, how progressive and productive she can be, and how she can improve a household from very simple resources. If we look at kind of the composition of the UAE hosts, the team in the UAE and the team in Senegal, we're really gender balanced, I would say. We really complement each other. We're short average, women, and they're really tall African men. So, we have a wonderful combination. But it's been, we understand the importance of it. Being a country that is really a country that faces water scarcity, an arid country or an arid region, and Africa that has the resources but has a challenge of access to the resource. And so the combination really is our merged vision and merged kind of aspiration to what we want to get. Just imagine how we can really unlock global economy, prosperity through women and water. And so really looking towards an enlightening future for our generation. And the role for women is even more important because we are the ones that are really holding these communities together, managing these resources on our own. We want to continue these informal conversations, but the informal conversations will have a critical input into the development and the drafting of the concept notes, the ideas that's going to come out in the water conference, but really identifying the tracks that we want to complement the UN Water Conference, the showcase progress. And I think we start this year in Dakar, and then we end the year in the UAE. And so it's a wonderful timeline and a roadmap for us to identify what is this contribution that each of these communities will want to contribute not only to the conference, but really a showcase. The UN Water Conference in the UAE will only be a stepping stone towards something bigger, but also a more resilient, sustainable management towards water resources. I think we all have a shared commitment towards water for cooperation in all its sense, really. With no cooperation, we will not be able to move forward and drive change. We also understand the importance of inclusivity. And when we talk about it, not only do we talk about women, but we also talk about the youth, indigenous peoples. We talk private sector, technology companies, academia. Everyone really plays a critical role. We understand data is a big issue, but again, I don't think we should be using that as an excuse for us not to be able to overcome these challenges. There's always an opportunity when challenges do come in. We are here as co-hosts, but really your partners in this process. This is not our conference, this is your conference. And so we will design and draw what outcomes we want to achieve, but really design the future for future generations. Yeah, we will be your connectors. We will be your catalysts to what you want to achieve. The conference is end of this year, but really it's around the corner, so we don't really have much time. Truly thank you for being a part of this, truly continuing your commitment, and we will continue to grow. This has been a wonderful partnership, and I only see it growing even beyond the conference. But thank you all.
I think we very much feel the partnerships of the co-hosts. We're really grateful for it, and we're happy to be here to raise our voice in our own words and be heard. And I think we are feeling that, and our community will be actively involved in the coming days. You're going to see us all over the program, and not only the coming days, but beyond. We're really committed in this shared journey together. And I want to highlight that in advance of the 2023 UN Water Conference, the Women in Water Diplomacy convened a symposium, much like this, one-day engagement. It had a focus on the Americas, and we had fantastic learnings from indigenous leaders from the Americas. Here, focus on Africa. Here we are in Dakar, and I'm really excited that when we're coming to UAE, we intend to raise the voices of our sisters in the Middle East and help bring communities together there too. And so that's something else we're looking forward. I also want to highlight that the network will be deeply engaged in the Dushanbe meeting in the end of May, should that be something that you'll be attending as well. So you'll see I skipped ahead on our program a little bit. I skipped over our third table discussion. No one complained. And I have bad news for you all, because Dr. Zodwa had a terrible flight change and is not here in the room with us. And she is the beating heart of our leadership in many ways, and always has such brilliant seeds of knowledge to share. So you get me. So in thinking about what Dr. Zodwa would say if she was here closing our day together, well, she would lean very much into the be bold and bring your chair to the table. What does she say? If there's not a chair for you at the table, bring your own chair. Yeah? And she sets that model for us is real. We want our community, our voices to be heard in our words, in our languages, from our perspective. So I tried to channel her in the be bold conversation. I also, really encourage everyone in these next days to put your hand up, sit at the front, raise your hand, raise your voice, get in there and really make the most of it. It's such a unique experience to be here together, and we want to take full advantage of it. I have no further comments. I want to thank you all for being with us here today. And I want you all to enjoy your stroll along the water as an inspiration for our coming days together. So really thank you to all of you for this effort, and to all of the network members here in the room that made this happen. And to, of course, our partners at Finland, which reminds me of an announcement I was supposed to make. If you are attending the Finnish reception, there will be a bus leaving from this hotel at 6:30. So we will continue our discussions over drinks of various shades this evening. and we'll be bright and early and ready to engage with UNDESA and the stakeholder meeting tomorrow. So thank you once again, everyone, and have a pleasant evening. Really grateful. Thank you.